to catch the tasty tidbits in the wee hours of tomorrow morning. So tonight, our effort is to draw your attention to what's happening in the Commonwealth of Virginia and what opportunities are there for us to work for just solutions to the injustices that prevail in our shared public lives. The center can accomplish what it does, and even more, with the membership and financial support from individuals, congregations, organizations, including social service entities who benefit from the advocacy that the center does, because oftentimes as social service agencies, they really are not legally permitted to do some of the kind of advocacy work that we do accomplish. So we do that on behalf of the consumers of all of those various social services. So like other organizations, the center was unable to gather, as we typically do in September, for our annual celebration, because one of the purposes of that event is to raise funds for the center's operations. So I'm making the pitch now, and I'll probably repeat it at the end, that we do encourage donations to the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy. We are a 501c3 organization, so your contributions are tax deductible. So tonight's program includes, very briefly, the agenda, an opportunity, we hope, to meet and greet just a few other advocates. Our hope is to break into breakout rooms, which I think many of you, if you've been on Zooms, and I don't know of anyone who hasn't been on a Zoom sometime in the past 6 months. We'll have breakout rooms with 5 or 6, maybe 7 at the most, people in it. It's just a chance for us to meet a handful, literally, of other people who are really interested in the kind of work that we're all doing. And so in that breakout room, we'll take about 1 minute, 1.5 minutes at most for each person to simply introduce yourself by name, talk about where you are located geographically. If you belong to a congregation, a faith community, or have a faith affiliation, or maybe none, which is fine. And maybe each person can mention maybe one of the most pressing concerns that they currently have. And then following that, we'll come back together in the big Zoom room, and we're going to have a brief report from 2 of our advocates who are here to talk about their experience with the first ever Civic Summer program sponsored by the Interfaith Center. And then what we've all been waiting for is our featured speaker, the indomitable director of the Virginia Interfaith Center for Public Policy, Ms. Kim Bobo. And then following Kim's comments and sharings, we'll have a little bit of a question and answer period, I hope. Those questions will be processed through that chat function. So if you look, I hope again that most people are somewhat familiar with this. So if you put in the chat a question, then we're going to have Stephanie and Kay Francis are going to monitor that and put the questions together so that we can try to cover as much material as you'd like. We'll take a brief look following that at the chapter's upcoming action plans. And then, of course, as always, the most necessary announcements. So the Virginia Interfaith Center is about helping us to learn, to pray, to act. And so tonight's effort, really in this launch meeting, is about educating us and raising our own awareness for some of the opportunities that there are to act on behalf of justice. We encourage all to pray in whatever way strengthens your understanding and your resolve. And so I'd like to invite us to a moment of silence where we hold the pain of others and the pain that we ourselves are experiencing and the injustices of which we are aware, to hold that on our heart. Thank you. Okay, anybody, well, I can't even say, does anybody have a question, because there's 31 of you here and you know, you're not going to raise your hand. Hopefully you know what to do. If you have a question, put it in the chat. We'll continue to watch that. I will go back in and enter the information that I had earlier, the email addresses for contact purposes.
And can I make a suggestion that you, and just in case anybody's not familiar with how you do join chat, I don't even know what the proper verb is, where they find it and what they need to do?
I think sometimes it varies depending upon your device. So on my laptop, I have a horizontal bar at the bottom of everybody's picture. And in there, there's like a microphone that if I press on that, it will mute me. There's a video, a picture of a camera. If I press on that, I will no longer be able to be seen. You'll just see my name. There's something that's called participants. And if you click on that, actually, you'll get a whole list of everybody who's here. Then next to that, there's a chat. And if you click on chat, you'll see that you can see it says everyone, or it lists all of the different people. I think for the chat function, it's probably just as easy to put your question in to everyone, and Stephanie and Kay Francis are going to monitor that.
Okay, so do you want me to send us to the breakout rooms now?
In just a second.
Okay.
So Sue Clark, if you're hearing me, I believe that this is being recorded. It looks like it is to me. Kim, do you know? Can you confirm that?
It is.
Or Keisha?
It is. It is.
So here.
Yeah, it is.
So we are recording it,
Yep,
which
yep.
means that the video will be posted on the website for those who are unable to be here. Time to go to the breakout rooms. Just a quick refresh. Your name, your location, because you're just introducing yourself to 4, 5, 6 other people there. Congregation or faith affiliation, and one issue that most presses on your heart.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, some people may not, because we assigned everybody, and so some of the folks aren't here. So if you're by yourself, I'm not sure what to do. So I'm gonna send you to your breakout rooms now. Here we go, everybody. And we'll only do like 5 minutes because I think some of them are small. So here we go.
If we signed up today, could we have not been assigned to a room?
Actually, I don't think we went into the breakout rooms. Usually it comes up and says join, and then you click and nothing's happening.
Yeah, a lot of people did, because it went from 30 something people down to 20. So it put about half of the participants into rooms.
May I
Okay.
interrupt this? Hello, this is Keisha. Could it be possible that some individuals registered under one email and likely logged in on Zoom under another?
That is entirely possible because I do not have an email address associated with the one I would have used is not linked to any of my Zoom accounts.
Okay. So that very well may be an issue that we're experiencing here because of it being predetermined. Bear with me. I'm going to hop on the phone with Kim and see if we can figure this out.
That wasn't the case for me, though.
You were able to get on, Jean?
I was in a breakout room by myself, so I came back to the main room so I wouldn't be by myself.
Maybe
You're
we
not.
should do
Hi,
a-
Juanita.
Maybe we should just do a lightning round and we'll just have a really big breakout.
Yeah, I think that's a
Sure.
good idea.
I think that would be great.
Lynn, go first.
Okay. Hi. Thanks, Jean. My name's Lynn Sheehan, and I'm from Brook Presbyterian Church. My most pressing concern, I would say, is that the voting goes smoothly and that we get the electorate out to make sure that they do vote and that their voice is heard. Thank you.
I'll go next. I'm Jamie Conrad from Alexandria, Virginia. I go to Emmanuel Church on the Hill, the Pumpkin Church. We are selling pumpkins again to support groups like the Interfaith Center. Historically, the issues that have motivated me most were Medicaid expansion and criminal justice reforms, which thank goodness we've been able to fix in the last couple of years in large measure. But still a lot of the economic justice issues concern me. And I'll say, like Lynn, right now I'm obsessed with just making sure people are free to vote and their votes get counted so that this election isn't stolen.
Hey, I'm Juanita. I'm from Northern Virginia. So are we all. I'm at All Saints Sharon Chapel in Alexandria, and I'm concerned about the health and safety of the people and the detention centers.
I'm Stephanie Niedringhaus. I belong to the Pax Catholic community in McLean. I also live in McLean, and the issue that motivates me most is immigration justice, because I'm the daughter of an immigrant, and ecological justice is another one.
I'm Ed Levine. I'm an unaffiliated Jew and live in Falls Church. My main issue at the moment is the plight of farm workers and other people on the front lines in COVID-19 who really aren't getting a fair shake, even in Virginia.
I'm Jane Delbridge. I live in the southern part of the county near Telegraph and Franconia roads. Go to All Saints Sharon Chapel and the Potomac Episcopal together. And I'm concerned about affordable housing and the immigration issues and the teachers and the young people that are struggling with the school decisions this year.
Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope that you had a chance. I don't know, it was myself and one other person in my little group. I don't know how big your groups were.
We had 20. And
say again?
We had 20 and we didn't finish.
Uh-oh. 20 in one group. Sorry about that. That was not the way it was quite supposed to be. Anyway.
And I was all by myself.
And Pat was all by herself. Well, our hope was to begin to create a sense of meeting people and community building in a fractured world, because after all, that's really what justice is all about. So we have two folks on with us, Lynn Sheehan and Rick Hale, both of whom participated in a program. Is everybody back? Yeah. Anyway, participated in a program that the center operated this summer called Civic Summer. And so we would just like to hear for just a couple of minutes from each of them about what that was all about and what did they learn and etc. So I'm not sure where you are, but how about if we let Lynn Sheehan go first?
Okay, thank you so much. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. Thanks for inviting me. I have not been involved with Virginia Interfaith for very long. Actually, our church, under the leadership of Nancy Morrison, who's on this call, and Eva, who's on this call, and Jean, who is also on this call, had been sending out some information to our social witness group. And I just felt like in reading some of the things that were there and some of the advocacy items that were brought up, that it was clear to me that Virginia Interfaith had their act together and knew how to advocate on behalf of the citizenry of Virginia. So I started kind of going through their website and looking at the different things that were coming up, and I thought the election was coming up as well. And I thought, gee, this might be a way to get involved a little more. And then I saw the Civic Summer program. So I thought, okay, that looks interesting, and I have the time, and they were good enough to allow me take off a couple weeks for the beach. And so I got involved, and it was wonderful because I really felt like it was an orientation 101 to learn more about the opportunities to make a big difference for civic engagement. So how we could organize and mobilize not only the members of our congregation, but also through action. And the many ways that the programs evolved were getting involved with the other congregations in Northern Virginia. So that was awesome. And Juanita, one of the people I worked with, is also on the call. So this is awesome. So the areas that they really gave more information on and tutorials and the formatting, that was the way it was handled, lunch and learn on Wednesdays, how to advocate. I mean, how does Virginia Interfaith do that? Where do we go to get resources? They have tons of toolkits on the website that they allowed us to then repurpose for social media. We would get involved with phone banks that we would then call different people. The Census Bureau, obviously that has been winding down, but we got involved with that as well. So the education, the advocacy, and specifically what got me started in the first place was the Get Out the Vote, GOTV, Get Out the Vote. Yep. And that was awesome because you could use your own phone with your own contacts and contact the people to get out information on behalf of Virginia Interfaith. So in a nutshell, that's pretty much what it was. But the main thing it did, honestly, too, was to get me to start thinking about what I could do within our congregation, within our groups, to learn more how we can become more involved. And one of those ways is we're looking at sending out stamps to college students who don't have stamps because they don't use regular snail mail, to mail back their ballots into the system. So actually, I'm a little slow on the uptake on that one, but we're getting that done. So thank you very much for having me.
Great, Lynn. Thank you. And you're at Burke Presbyterian, is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Okay,
Burke
that's terrific. How about Rick Hale? Where are you?
I'm here.
Hi.
I'm Rick Hale. I go to Rock Spring Congregational Church in Arlington, which is part of the United Church of Christ and UCC. And actually, Reverend Laura Martin, who's our associate pastor, is here tonight. So I'm just going to talk for like a minute or so, and then let Laura say a couple words. If that's okay. We'll keep to our time limit. Okay. Lynn did a great job of covering Civic Summer. It was just a really great opportunity to engage in a number of ways with issues relating to this year's election and also the 2020 census. As she mentioned, we did a bunch of things, including texting people, persons of color, to get them to participate in the primaries that were back in June, if they lived in districts that had primaries. And we've carried that forward to work with Reclaim Our Vote, which was the organization that worked on that, to do postcards to voters. And now we're texting to people about the general election on November 3rd. The census session was excellent. It not only gave us a lot of information to share with people in our congregation, but also ways to get involved, to get people to participate in the census. You were kind enough to invite Reverend Marvin Silver, who's the head of our Faith and Democracy group in the UCC Central Atlantic Conference, to talk during one of the sessions. And the session that you did that talked about advocacy that the Virginia Interfaith Center does with the legislature was also great. So with that, I'll be quiet and let Laura just chime in for a minute or so, if that's okay.
Sure. Thank you so much, Rick.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Just to add to what Rick was saying, we really appreciated what he was able to bring back and share with the wider congregation. And we have a core group of people who worked on faith and democracy issues, including a couple of youth in our congregation. And I just wanted to highlight too the celebratory aspect of doing this work. And I think it's so important that as we do this work for justice, that we keep the joy in it, as we hear in one of our hymns. And so we put together a video that showed people doing their Reclaim the Vote postcards and writing them and turning them in. And we set that to music and played it in our online worship. And so I really appreciate Rick being the link and VICPP being the provider. And we were able to celebrate and lift up all of this in our Faith and Democracy Sunday that we celebrated in September. Thank you.
Wow, that's terrific. That's great ideas from both Lynn and Rick and Laura. Thank you so much. We are ready now for our indomitable leader, Kim Bobo. You are on the stage.
All righty. Well, luckily, I'm not, wasn't hired to do Zoom calls and breakout rooms. So, so I wanted to go over sort of where we are with the special session. What are the other sort of key things we're working on between now and the end of the year? And then I want to talk about, you know, what are the things we're thinking about in terms of the 2021 General Assembly. And then finally, a couple minutes on some initial thoughts on Day for All People and maybe getting some of your ideas on that as well. So the special session is almost over. It has gone, no one knew how long it was going to take. In fact, folks thought at the beginning it might just be 2 weeks. It's now gone on for over 6 weeks. So it's just like going on and on, but it's almost done. They still have to finish the budget, and they still have several conference committees that need to meet on issues that we're concerned about. So let me highlight the things that we've been working on and concerned about. As you probably know, we ran a paid quarantine bill, kind of a, you know, special session version on our paid sick day. And like in the regular session, we got it through the House and got killed in the Senate. Now on this one, we were told that there were a number of senators who actually support the concept, but really didn't think it belonged in the special session. They didn't want it there. And in fact, Senator Saslaw, who chairs the committee, did not want to hear the bill. He finally did, but he was not happy about hearing it. So again, the fact that we were killed in the Senate, I don't take as a guarantee that we can't eventually get those senators, but it's clearly going to be some work. We had been supporting an eviction moratorium. Those bills got left in committee. They are not coming out. And we'd also been working on utility shutoffs and trying to prevent utility shutoffs. And those were actually two of the biggest issues that we thought were important in terms of COVID related issues, and neither one of those came out. There was a bill passed, though, that Senator Boysko led on subjecting the detention centers, the immigrant detention centers, to various health department standards. So that bill got through. So that one is basically done. Then there were, you know, no one knew quite going in what was going to happen in terms of police reform and sort of prison reform. And what ended up is that the bigger prison justice reform bills got delayed until the regular session, or not dealt with at all. And what ended up getting dealt with was some of the more modest but important, what people refer to as low-hanging fruit in terms of prison reform. And so there are, why is the Senate so much more conservative? Oh dear, that's a long story. So there are 3 bills that have made it through both the House and the Senate, but in different versions that we were supporting: the Civilian Review Boards, the Marcus Alert, and the Early Prisoner Release bills. And these have gone through both houses, but in slightly different versions, and so they're going to be in the conference committees. So those were the main ones that we were working during the special session, and now it really is coming down to the budget. And we have a really, you know, a serious concern that Virginia right now has, for years, we've been putting money into the rainy day fund. And honestly, this to me feels like it's a rainy day. Like, this is a really hard time for so many families in Virginia. And yet the governor and the Senate have proposed in their budgets that we put more money into the rainy day funds. Not that we take money out to do some of these human needs concerns, but that we put more money into the rainy day funds. And so we are pretty concerned about it. And we feel like if we would use some of these rainy day funds, it could go for rental assistance, it could go for the utility cutoffs, it could do paid sick day for home health workers, it could expand Medicaid for low-income immigrant women. Anyway, there's a lot of important things that we need in this moment. Now, the truth is, I will be shocked if we can get them to use the rainy day funds. But we've been pushing in the last 2 weekly roundups to get letters in around the rainy day fund, because this issue is going to come back around in January, because we're going to have to work on the budget again in January. And so I think we just need to keep pushing. You know, the budget is done behind closed doors. The process is not very transparent in Virginia. And so it's going to be hard for us to make the tweaks that you normally might. But again, I am concerned that we have a rainy day fund. People need it, particularly in terms of rental assistance right now. And there is some money for rental assistance, but not nearly enough to cover all the problems that we have in Virginia. So Ann's asking, who do we need to be pressuring? You know, it's the budget committee, so it's the finance committee, it's the appropriations committee, but again, I think it's going to be difficult right now. This is a very behind the scenes door, but I think our main message is, for now and going forward, is we need to use these rainy day funds to help people in this moment of crisis, because it clearly is a moment of crisis. Okay, before I move on to some of the other things that we've been working on right now, and then to the 2021 GA, we are getting lots of questions on Amendment 1. So we have not taken a position as an organization on it, because we have very close friends on both sides of this issue. We did do a show, one of our interfaith live broadcasts on it, and we are going to do another show with, again, both supporters and opponents on the amendment, so that people can make up their own mind on it. It is again, this is one where I understand both sides, and we have not taken a position on it. So, but again, you can go back and look at the Interfaith Live show that had the president of the League of Women Voters and the head of Progress Virginia, so both sides giving their opinion. And then the show that we're doing next week, I think, on it, we've got Marcia Price, who's one of the leading people against it, and I think Skye Valkenburg, who's been in support of it. So again, trying to present both sides on it. Other things that we're working on now, right now, all the civic engagement stuff, you've heard it for the summer, but we're doing a whole nother round of engagement this fall. So there's plenty of work to do to try to get out the vote on this and make sure everybody understands. October 13th is the last day to register. So that's next week. So make sure you get those particular young people registered. We've been doing a lot of work on helping figure out the logistics on driver's licenses and how immigrants can actually take advantage of the new driver's license stuff. We're working with a lot of attorneys around all the new wage theft laws. And we've got to fight this fall around making the temporary OSHA standard a permanent standard, because I don't think the COVID is going to be gone by January, when the temporary standard will be out of existence. So we need to continue to create this standard. So those are really the other things that we're working on right now, in addition to the policy stuff. But we believe that the 2021 General Assembly will likely be, it will likely be a virtual assembly as well. And what we've learned from the virtual process is it makes it a lot harder for groups like us to intervene. Usually, like during the regular session, you know, if you can't get to somebody, you literally find where they're walking from one meeting to another, and you walk with them and you get their attention. Like, you can force yourself into these people's spaces in a way that you can't do virtually. And even testifying isn't nearly as powerful online as it is in person. So what I think that says to us is that we're going to have most everything in terms of votes and presenting information a lot more nailed down before the session starts, which means the meetings that you all do with your legislators ahead of time to try and get them confirmed on the votes will really make an incredible difference going forward. So let me talk about the things that I'm pretty sure we're going to be working on going forward in the General Assembly. We will make another run at our paid sick days. You would think in the midst of a corona pandemic that we could get paid sick days through the General Assembly. I think we have the votes in the House. We've done it several times in the House, but we've got to get it out of Commerce and Labor Committee. And frankly, that is Northern Virginia. That is, you know, so we need Senator Saslaw. He chairs the committee. We not only need him to vote for it, but we need him to help us get the votes in the committee. Chap Peterson was one of the major people who spoke against it on the floor in March. So we absolutely need Chap Peterson to, even if he doesn't adore it, we need him to at least support it and not speak against it. Marsden will be a critical vote on it. Survell is we've got to have his help on this one. So again, there's a lot of the Northern Virginia senators that are very important to be able to make this happen. And so if they are your senators, please, let's schedule a meeting with them and start talking to them this month, like not later. I mean, we really have got to get this stuff moving. Second issue, we are joining with the Virginians for the alternatives to the death penalty and going to see if we can get rid of the death penalty in Virginia this session. We think we've got great supporters. We've got a Republican senator, Senator Stanley, willing to help on this. Suravel has agreed to sponsor it in the Senate. And in the House, we have either Charnel Herring, who chairs courts, or Mike Mullen, who chairs the criminal subcommittee of courts, agreed to be the sponsors in the House. So we've got great sponsors. But, you know, we'll need every vote. And, you know, this one will cut funny in terms of Republicans and Democrats. So we've just hired a Reverend Dr. Lakeisha Cook, who is leading our effort in this area. And I'm excited about us being able to really maybe win this. We would be the first state in the South to win abolition of the death penalty. I think we've got a good shot at it. Third, we're going to work a package of farm worker bills. You know, we're going to go back after trying to get rid of the minimum wage exemption on farm workers, which is just outrageous that farm workers are exempt from the minimum wage in Virginia. It's outrageous. We're going to try and see if we can get rid of that exemption. There's a bill that Delegate Lopez has run for the last few years that we're going to try and give him support for, to require children in tobacco fields to have parental permission. You have to have permission to go on a school field trip. We think at the minimum they ought to have permission to be able to work in a dangerous tobacco field. That bill has gone down the last couple years. So, you know, so it clearly is going to need some support. And then we're working with some folks on trying to do a heat stress bill, which is the #1 complaint of farm workers in the fields, is heat stress and no protection against heat in Virginia. And so this bill will actually not only help farm workers, it'll help construction workers, it'll help landscapers. So so that's our package on farm workers. We are in conversation with people right now that our environmental work might be focused on water. There are several states that have a right to water that has passed in their General Assembly. We're looking at some sort of right to water, or maybe a moratorium on privatization of water. In Petersburg, they sold off their water rights to a private company, and one of these private companies is trying to buy up water rights all over Virginia right now. And we are concerned that in the process of doing this, a lot of low-income people are going to lose access to water, which feels like a basic human right that we need to be protecting. So we're looking at what we can do in that space around protecting water rights for people. And then finally, we will continue doing sort of human needs work, whether it's around evictions or expanding food stamps, or, you know, there's some stuff in that space that particularly relates to people who are struggling under COVID right now that we feel like we just have to do. So that's, you know, and honestly, that's already a pretty big package. So that's what we're looking at. And as we think about moving this work forward, as I said, this fall, we've got to be doing meetings. We've got to have a lot of the votes already lined up. And then I'm thinking Day for All People probably won't be in Richmond this year. I just, you know, I think our legislators might not be there. And I don't think it's going to be safe for all of us to gather. And so we're brainstorming right now about, could we have a week for all people? In not a day for all people, but a week for all people, where we do we have some, you know, maybe some speakers, but also where we do some targeted actions related to these various things. So could we, on, you know, the abolition of the death penalty, could we do something, you know, some safe prayer vigils with mass outside the courthouses around the state on a particular day? Or could we do something in support of farm workers another day? And could we take our core issues and somehow do various things on it related to them during that week? Anyway, I don't know. We're trying to figure it out, and I'll try to do a better job figuring out the logistics than I did on the breakout room. So let me stop and see what other questions, comments, thoughts people have.
Well, I'll go ahead and give the first one. You did address the redistricting question, and that's a question that a lot of us individually are getting as well, that the Virginia Interfaith Center has not taken a position. But the other topic that drew a couple of comments and questions is the rainy day fund. And one of the questions has to do with the governor's stance on this. Is he protecting it to make sure that state employees won't be furloughed, or what is it for actually? What do they say it's for, and why are they not using it?
I mean, I think there are people who believe, well, maybe things will get worse next year, and so we need to, save more money for next year. There's also people they feel that our bond rating stays higher if we have a big rainy day fund and if we continue putting money into the rainy day fund. But I have to tell you, I was talking to the director of the Commonwealth Institute for Fiscal Analysis, and I was like,
"You're what?"
Whoops. Excuse me?
Okay,
anyway,
Jill is coming at you. Hold on.
You're not on mute.
Yeah, somebody's talking and not on mute. Anyway, I was talking to the head of the Commonwealth Institute. I'm like, Michael, am I missing something? Is there some reason we shouldn't be tapping the rainy day fund? He says, absolutely. Absolutely, we need to be tapping that rainy day fund. But again, I think there hasn't been there hasn't been much of a concerted effort to challenge the use of the rainy day fund. And it's actually a place that, I'm looking, we can't do, we actually are probably not strong enough to do it right now during the special session, but I think we may be able to put together enough of the advocate groups to have a unified message on this that we may be able to tap some of the rainy day funds in the January session. So that's my thinking on it, that we kind of get a much more unified sort of drumbeat on using the rainy day fund.
One of the questions, Kim, had to do with, as an individual, what is the best way for us to get involved and to support the center's initiatives? Through the website, or are you going to be pushing things out to recruit people?
Well, every Wednesday in the weekly roundup, we try to, in fact, I have to scale it back so we don't give too many things for people to do, so that folks aren't overwhelmed. But every week there are concrete things that people can do as an individual. Every single week there are concrete suggestions. In addition to that, in general, we are doing civic fall, so there's a whole set of things you can do to help with civic engagement this fall, and you can sign up to help with any of that. And we've done a lot this year trying to recruit congregational liaisons, so that so we can have somebody that helps us relate to a congregation. And so if you don't have a liaison with your congregation, would you become it or find us somebody? So we can, because again, we send out information to those liaisons to help engage the congregation. So that's a whole nother way as well.
Another question, do you expect legislation coming up dealing with racial justice and policing reform?
I think there will be more. Again, there's a fair amount. Again, we've got the ones that I mentioned before the Marcus Alert and the civilian review boards and the prisoner release stuff, all of that was in this session. I think there will be more for sure that comes up in January. And again, I believe that our abolition of the death penalty is clearly a racial justice issue. If you look at the history of how we got the death penalty and how it's been used over the years, not only in Virginia, but around the nation, I think that is clearly one of the racial justice issues that we're going to be working on this year. I don't think, I have not seen, I've not seen big bills on prison reform. We've been kind of debating around, is there something we could do? I know there's a lot of interest in cash bail, trying to figure out what could be done at the state level around cash bail. Interested in, I'm interested in trying to see if we might be able to get a JLARC study that looks at what other states have done to reduce mass incarceration. Because there are like 4 or 5 states that have done pretty serious reductions. And so I'm really, trying to figure out what we could do in that space that would build on things for the long haul. I don't think there will be any serious prison reform, criminal justice reform efforts in this upcoming session. I'd be surprised because I haven't seen it.
We have time for one more question. Is there one out there?
There are actually several more. One that I think it'd be helpful for everyone to hear about is the question about if there will be opportunities for groups within our Northern Virginia chapter to meet with legislation. Can the Virginia Interfaith Center coordinate that? So several of us at one time could meet with a senator online or delegate.
Yes, and that can happen one of 2 ways. Either we can try to organize it from the staff, or the better way is one of you takes responsibility for, I'll try and get the meeting with Senator so-and-so, and then we promote it to other people and help do the planning session. It's just sometimes you guys have an easier time getting the meeting than we do, honestly.
Yeah. Are those meetings typically by Zoom?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Everything is done by Zoom these days.
Okay. We only have about 6 minutes left. So what I will say to everyone is that we will try to get those questions that you have put in the chat either to Kim or to us, and we will try to get back to you with an answer. Is that correct, Stephanie and Kay Francis and Kim? Is that what we more or less agreed to do?
So we can arrange that.
Okay. Well, let us thank Kim Bobo. Yay!
Oh, thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for that update. And it sounds to me like you really laid out very clearly what we're going to be working on during this next upcoming General Assembly. So what we may do as a group, as part of my chapter plans, if you will, is try to organize another session like this on Zoom, probably in mid-November, with help from Ben Hoyne, who is our legislative guru next to Kim. I mean, Kim's really the guru, but Kim does a lot of that kind of work. So we'll meet with him on some of the specific issues, and if the, to kind of get a sense of what our work is going forward, because after that is when we will want to set up those meetings with our local senators and delegates And we can do that by Zoom, but we will know, we will be informed then about what the issues are that the center is focusing on. And we're happy to help people to do that. The other thing that we'll be alert to is that most of the legislators hold some kind of a town hall session prior to their going, quote, going to Richmond. I don't know whether they're going to Richmond anymore, but, and those are typically held in December, and it's a great opportunity for us to testify, if you will, on behalf of one or more of the issues that the Interfaith Center is working on. There'll be action alerts that will occur out of the center during the General Assembly, which opens in January and runs for 2 months, right, this time? We run for 60 days, I believe. And when we have a 60-day session, we sometimes, as a chapter, try to organize another gathering midway through, just prior to crossover, which is when the bills from the House go to the Senate, from the Senate to the House, so that if there's last-minute pressure that we can exert on our legislators, then that's a good time to do it. We have a couple of quick announcements. We have 2 minutes left. I'll echo Kim's comments about the idea of congregational liaisons for those of you who are affiliated with a congregation, and how that operates. And Rick and Lynn shared with us a little bit about that earlier, I think. A reminder on the voting, raise your hand if you have already voted. Okay, pretty good number from what I can see. Those of you who haven't, I hope you've made a plan for how you are going to vote. Oh, I like that, whoever put that emoji there with the clapping hands. And to take some responsibility for encouraging family members, friends, members of your congregation, and especially young people to cast a vote in this upcoming election. Stephanie has an announcement to make.
Just very briefly, some of you know about the annual Virginia Immigrant Advocate Summit. The Virginia Interfaith Center is a co-sponsor of it. It happens every year. We normally get about 200 people. This year, needless to say, it's virtual. It'll be 2 days, November 17th and 18th, and Kim will be one of the speakers, and it will deal with post-election, what's happened this year, but what's predicted and what's hoped for post-election. So it should be very, very helpful. So just check the weekly roundup and the Virginia Interfaith Center website. There will be links to register. Registration is already open.
Thank you, Stephanie. Kay Francis wants to share 1 minute on the Living Wage Certification Program.
As many of you know, the center has launched a program called Living Wage Virginia that recognizes local employers who pay their employees a living wage. That program has been on hiatus during the pandemic because of employment issues and businesses not even being open. We're going to give it a try again to recognize employers who pay much better than the minimum wage. So if you know of any employers who you think should be recognized, please email me at the email address at the beginning of the chat. It's kdolan12@comcast.net. And there's some of the committee members on here, Sonia and Jamie, I know are on. But if you want to help recruit employers, email me as well. Thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Kay Francis. Ken Spiker wanted me to announce that the annual Crop Hunger Walk is October 17th. and it's happening virtually. So if you're interested in the crop walk, you can contact Ken Spiker. Ken, maybe you can pop your email in the.
Oh, I will.
Just a reminder that on Thursdays at 11 a.m., the Interfaith Center typically has a Virginia Interfaith Center live program. It's also posted afterwards on the website. Fabulous speakers all summer long. It's been really excellent. And to echo or amplify Kim's reminder that every Wednesday they send by email the weekly roundup, and it comes from Kim Bobo. So when you're looking in your slew of email messages, look for one from Kim, and that will be the weekly roundup. I just want to thank you all for joining us tonight. We're glad to have your contact information for those of you who we didn't have that, and we will commit to being in touch with you and keeping you well informed about what's going on at the Interfaith Center. There's never enough time in these sessions to really, chit chat and cover it all.
And I'm sorry for breaking in, but for people who aren't checking chat, I want to make sure everyone knows what Kim put in there just a couple of minutes ago. She asked that people email her if you're willing to schedule the meetings with your delegate or senator, and she'll arrange it.
Oh, lost it.
Yeah, something went on there. What? Somebody.
What happened?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
I don't either. Hopefully you can all hear.
That's one of.
Chat came back.
Somebody is sharing their screen.
Somebody's sharing their screen. I'm not
So
sure.
if you just hit escape, it will at least minimize it so you can see
We're back.
There, we're back.
Just want to remind everyone that Kim will be watching for your donation online or in the mail. We'll try to respond to the unanswered questions in the chat. And we particularly welcome hearing from you about events and opportunities that others of us can participate in that might be happening in your congregation. I heard from Nancy Morrison tonight about the wonderful programs that Burke Presbyterian has been offering, and all of those kinds of things that are by Zoom typically would allow any one of us, I think, to participate and join. So keep that information coming back and forth. We really would appreciate any feedback about this session. And going forward, if you're ready to hop in there and take some responsibility for some organizing and in your civic engagement, we of course welcome that. Thank you all. It's 8:35. I apologize for the lateness, and I appreciate your staying with me. Thanks very much.
Bye.
Good night.
Hey, thanks. Bye.
Bye, Kim. Time to turn on the debates.
I know.
9 o'clock.
Yep.
Can't wait. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Kim. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. Thanks, everybody. Bye.